why aren't police taking this more seriously? And I'm not saying that it's going to happen in your case. I hope that it doesn't. But why aren't police taking this more seriously? There's a history of escalation in terms of just stalking in general.
Yeah.
Taking your case specifically out of it. What is it? What do people need to do to be saying to the police and the law, like I suppose the politicians that make the laws, you need to take this more seriously?
Yeah, so I interviewed a lot of, interestingly, we have a lot of stalking academics in Australia, really high level ones that know a lot about it. But unfortunately, we don't have the same level of expertise within the police system or the legal system. So they tell me, of course, and they're the experts, that in Australia, there's not a thorough understanding of what stalking is among police. And there's also the resources aren't, or the processes aren't put in place to be able to recognize stalking. So police are used to responding to a crime that has happened. So something has happened, whereas stalking is an ongoing crime, and it's often a series of legal actions that put together have created this illegal action. So if you walk into the police station and say, you know, a flower's been left at my door today and it's from someone, I think they're trying to scam me, and they say, oh, well, make a note of that, and if anything happens again, and then the next week something's left in your mailbox and you go to police and you see someone else new and you say, I was here the other week and this happened. So it's not all being put together. So, and there's not that guidance given to the person that you really need to be able to prove that pattern yourself. So between all of those things put together, victims are left on their own trying to figure out what to do, and police are putting it in the too hard basket, and that's when it gets sort of slipped through the cracks. A lot of people also don't collect evidence or keep these horrible, scary messages because people don't want to have these awful things on their phone or on their email or in their house, and they don't keep it. So it's there's a lot of education that's lacking among the police force and the public to be able to get it across the line.
Is any movement happening in terms of that, in terms of the legislation, in terms of the police? Has there been a change in attitude?
Oh, look, there was some action happening in Victoria where they were looking into some changes, and there were some recommendations made, and that was off the back of the murder of Celeste Mano, who was killed by a man who stalked her online only for about 12 months. But none of those recommendations have been implemented, despite all the work that was put into that
of course they haven't been.
Investigation. And elsewhere in the country, not really. I mean, we're starting to talk about it a bit more, I think, which is good. But I think from a legislation perspective, not much is really changing. And same with an education perspective, because stalking, like, it is illegal. Technically, it is illegal, but it's just so difficult to get the charge across the line because people don't know what they don't know, and they don't know how to manage it. And often by the time they do go to police, it's been happening a really long time.
What would be your recommendation to people that are getting stalked in terms of to help their case move along and to get the police to take it seriously?
First thing I would say is record absolutely everything, whether or not you think it's stalking or not. So if you're getting communications or contact or anything and it makes you uncomfortable, just keep a copy of it. If you always have it there, then if it does, 12 months later, it's still going on, you've got the evidence you need to demonstrate that pattern. If you wait, you're unable to prove it. So keeping copies of, or a diary, if it's in person, of absolutely everything is really important. The other thing I would say is to tell somebody, and it's really common for people who are experiencing stalking because of the nature of it, to not want to tell anybody about it. It's often really distasteful. It's often really humiliating, and people don't want to talk about it. There's a lot of victim blaming that happens around stalking, so people keep it to themselves. But as I did, I barely told anyone for years. And what I did talk about was minimal, and I really didn't talk about the impact of it very honestly and openly until this charge got across the line. So I would say tell somebody, whether it's the police, you definitely should tell the police, but if they won't listen, tell them again and again and again. That's what I would say. Or tell a friend, tell your mum, tell a therapist, tell a neighbor. Someone should know, because if things do escalate, that could contribute to your safety. If people know that there's someone out there that you're uncomfortable about, that's really going to help you if and when things do escalate. So there's some context around what you're trying to tell people.